Hey everyone, this is Chris with Bonner Breakdown, and this is what I call the good report. We're always looking for things to celebrate. We're looking for things that have gone well. And oftentimes those can be difficult to find in government. And yet I found something that happened this last week that was a bipartisan effort from Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Tom Cotton, who came together to put together legislation to fly the prisoner of war and missing in action flag. Now, it is Veterans Day. And I think it was very fitting that last week President Trump signed into law that that federal buildings will fly the prisoner of war missing in action flag to honor those people who are prisoners of war and who've been missing in action. I want to thank every member of our military who served. We're so grateful for the work that you've done. And on Veterans Day, of course, we say thank you. We also are grateful that even on one topic, our nation can come together and agree that we need to honor those people who've been prisoners of war and missing in action. So keep those families of members of that community in your thoughts and prayers. And I know that Veterans Day can be very difficult for many as we remember. And I know veterans don't want the accolades, generally don't want the accolades. And so we just say thank you from the Bonner Breakdown. And that today is your good report. We have some new sponsors coming on board. We're excited to announce those in the next few episodes. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, please let us know. Go to bonnerbreakdown.com if you want to sponsor a segment like the good report or an episode itself. With that, today we've got a great episode with County Commissioner Dan McDonald, and hopefully you enjoy the conversation. Well, here we are. Dan,
yeah,
it's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. I know that you saw some of the mayoral episodes,
Yep.
and I asked you to come on, and you said, yeah, we've had some contact a little bit over the years, and appreciate you as a county commissioner. So thanks for serving. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? I know that politics wasn't your first option.
No, as a matter of fact, I was actually more of a business person for the most part. I mean, I started out, my parents, when I was in junior high, started their own business. And so I went to work for them, and it was good. They created that work ethic that I think everybody needs to have.
Yeah.
In fact, my parents were awesome, and they would never give me anything. Everything I had to buy. So I'd work all summer for 50 cents an hour when everyone else was making $3 or $4 an hour. And all that money, I thought, man, at the end of the summer, I'm going to be banked. This will be awesome.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is they go, no, you have to buy your school clothes. Well, the theory behind that is if I bought my own school clothes after having to do all that work,
you'd make it last.
I'm going to take better care of them. And those, I think those life lessons have stuck with me my entire life, and I tried to instill them in my kids. But from there, I was a football player. I played football in high school. Senior year was not great. I grew 7 inches over the summer, so I played a year at junior college, and was a stand-up player there, and got a letter of intent from Arizona State. But I was still racing dirt bikes at the time and blew my knee up. So it made my life change to a different course.
Wow.
So I went into working for a company locally there. Well, I worked for my father for a few more years and was running his operation.
And what did he do?
He owned a landscape and building supply yard. We had everything from rock blocks, concrete blocks.
Where is this at?
Down in California.
Okay.
I'm originally from Napa Valley.
Okay.
And he finally decided to cash it in, and he wanted to do something different. So he became a coach and a teacher at a Christian school.
Okay.
So I was raised in the church, and so at that point I thought, well, I've got to go out and find something on my own. Found what I thought was a good career to start with, which kept moving around in the roofing industry until finally I was running a large roofing company.
Okay.
Down in the Bay Area. Got out of that, decided I want to do something completely different, and I got recruited by a company that said, you can live anywhere you want. We'll put you anywhere you want. Well, my wife, whose family is all from here, she still has quite a few relatives here. When we started dating in '79, she brought me up here on vacation with her. And, came across the Long Bridge and had the classic Long Bridge.
Wow,
it's like,
yeah, right?
How do I live here?
Yep.
Well, I found out you could live here, but you couldn't work here. Back then, wages weren't great. And so we always kept, like, 1 foot in Idaho going, okay, we want to move there, we want to get out of the Bay Area. We're in the Napa Valley, which is still a nice place. But
hey, I'm going to have you pull this down just right there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we're in the Napa Valley, and this company recruits me, and they say you can live anywhere you want.
Right.
And I was at that point I was thinking kind of small. I was thinking, well, I'd like to have Napa and Sonoma counties, some there. And they said that's taken. I said, what about Sacramento to Tahoe? No, that's taken. And so I was walking out of this 4-hour interview going, I'm not interested. And as I'm walking down the hallway in this hotel, they go, you can live anywhere you want. We'll move you. And I said, what about Northern Idaho, Eastern Washington area? And they said, well, it's fallow territory. You'd have to build it yourself. And I said, I'll take it.
Wow.
Now, I hadn't told my wife yet, which if anybody knows me, they know I'm kind of famous for that. But came home and said, honey, we have an opportunity to move to Idaho. And then I had to call our in-laws because they have a house here on the family property. And can we live in your house? And that's
Sure.
what kind of got me up here. And I was a roof consultant that also did sales for this roofing manufacturer. And it was the way the thing's set up is you really run your own business.
Yeah.
There's no one telling you, hey, get up, go to work, you have to punch a clock.
Yeah.
But it was straight commission. So it was work or starve.
Wow.
Which is a great motivator.
Yeah.
Originally, they told me the territory was not big enough by their standards to support someone. And I said, well, let me try it. And if it doesn't work out, you can ship me to Seattle or wherever. And then the first 5 years, I was in the top 15 in the company, and
awesome.
And then kept working up from there. So it was a good career. A lot of driving, a lot of consulting. I learned to do AutoCAD, and
cool.
It helped me with some skills, but you really had to run the business yourself, which is kind of tuned me up. Everything I've done in my life kind of tuned me for this job.
Sure. Yeah.
And so then I finally got to the point where I was doing a radio talk show, political talk show in Sandpoint, and on Fridays, and I started paying attention to the county and the city and what was going on in the state. And I'm going, man, I just, these guys are making some mistakes. The budget's starting to blow up and, so on and so forth. So I thought maybe it's time to step out of what I'm doing, which paid very well. And I only worked about 3 days a week, and mostly during the spring, summer, and fall, never during the winter, to get in a full-time job.
Right. That's a huge shift.
Yeah, it was a big shift. It was tough. Me and my wife and I had to have several conversations. I said, it's going to mean a life change for us. We're not going to have the money we had before, so we're going to have to kind of pull back a bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I think that's...
I kind of felt the call to do it, and I thought my life experiences and my experience in business would be helpful.
Yeah.
That managing people, and so we took the plunge.
Okay.
And then I got sworn in and said, oh my Lord, what have I done?
Well, I think everybody who's first term in office goes, uh-oh. Right. There's always some challenges with that. So you have family, kids,
I've got 3 kids. They're all grown.
All right.
32, 30, and 27. 2 of them have children. So I've got 5 grandchildren. The youngest one, my wife is having me pressure him to procreate. He's got to meet a woman first, but get married. But yeah, the pressure's on to have the new baby. So.
So what do you think kind of shaped your political ideology leanings? Like what do you think kind of shaped how you view politics?
I think it was my upbringing. My parents were very self-reliant. I mean, when my mom, this is my mom's 3rd husband. She got pregnant in high school. Okay. And kept me, which is awesome. I'm thankful for that. And she was a single mom for a few years. She was working 2 jobs, but she still had time for me. And even as a small child, that was noted. Yeah. She married again to a guy that had some health issues that didn't work out. And then her 3rd husband, his pretense for marrying my mother was, you have to let me adopt your children so I can raise them as my own. And he's the one that's really shaped me. He taught me all about integrity and honoring your word and being on time and, and doing more than what you're asked to do in a job. So, and making yourself invaluable. Wow. And so those things kind of really drive my life. And now they drive my children's life. We were able to pass that on to my children. I hope we can pass it on to our grandchildren.
Of course. Yeah.
And he was awesome. There's no blood relation. He's 5'5", I think, blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm 6'3", dark hair. Well, I used to have dark hair. I'm just happy to have hair. Yeah. But we act alike, talk alike. Our signatures are similar. It's strange.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it was always a Christian upbringing. Always raised me in the church. They're highly involved in the church. My mother and father both are highly involved in charities. My mom cooks for the homeless down there. She created the Hallelujah House, which kept. She had a restaurant. She owned a couple of restaurants, and one of the things she noticed is a lot of her wait staff were young women, pregnant, probably had a little bit of a drug problem. She said, "There's got to be a way to keep these women, to get them straightened out, and then let them keep their children." Wow. And So she created the Hallelujah House, and the kids are on one side and the mother's on the other side. Once they get clean, they're rejoined, and
that's
it was a
cool.
lot of her effort. So
Wow. Yeah, that's super neat.
And it's what drives my charitable giving. I mean, it was I was raised that way.
Right.
You do these. I mean,
yep. You serve.
Yeah,
you these things.
You serve. I mean, I was an elder in church for 9 years and led a worship team, and it's just things you do because you're called to do it.
Yeah. And there's inherent challenges.
Oh yeah.
In anything that you got to deal with flawed people wherever you go. So it's always challenging. So you're seeing some things happening with the city, with the county that you were like, I bet I could make an impact here.
Yeah.
And so do you have anything specific that really stood out to you that while you're doing that made you go, I could really help?
Well, one of the things the first year I ran, which was 2016, I made a point, since my schedule was my own, I would come to the county building, try to get in there a couple of days a week, and really started kind of immersing myself into the budget, meeting the different department heads, learning what they did.
Yeah.
Because it gave me a better ability to step back and go, okay, what are my goals? And so, and people call them campaign promises, but to me, they were really goals.
Yeah.
Here's 20 things I want to accomplish. And in the first 7 months, because I had done all the homework, I was able to accomplish those, which was awesome.
Okay. Which were what?
One of the biggest ones was budget. I mean, the budget was a runaway budget. It was unsustainable. I had met with the clerk, and he said, listen, our burn rate for our cash, which I don't want to get too geeky on budget stuff.
Sure, no, but go ahead. Yeah.
But our burn rate was way too high. We were burning up revenues. The county itself, as a government, had expanded dramatically. In fact, in 2016, I think they added 36 employees.
Right.
So that's new positions, which are reoccurring costs. So I was really cognizant of that being the primary issue, because if we don't get that straightened out, really everything else kind of falls by the wayside.
Okay. Yeah.
And then to start looking at running the county more like a business. I mean, granted, you can't do that with government to the degree that you don't have a profit motive, but you flip it, and your profit motive becomes a savings motive. So that was the biggest thing was budget. There was issues with a lot of lawsuits. We had a lot of terminations that resulted. They were highly publicized, and it was costing the county a lot of money. So one of the first things we did, besides wrestling the budget down, was to go self-insured for liability. Because the way it works with first dollar insurance is the insurance company just wants to settle. They don't want to go through a lengthy court process.
Yep.
And we were the ATM machine for the area. Anybody who wanted to take a shot at us, they would get a payoff. And I said, that's just not right, because it's not my money. It's not your money. Actually, it is my money, and it is your money, and it's everyone else's money. It's everybody's money.
Yeah.
So,
regardless of if you live in the city or not.
Right. And the company I'd come from, we were 100% self-insured for medical and for liability, and the savings were dramatic. And we've seen the same dramatic savings here. Plus, it gives us control over what cases do we really want to fight, what cases do we want to settle.
Okay.
Because if you hear anything about the county, or if you know anything about the county, you'll know that we are constantly being sued over frivolous things.
Okay.
People hoping to cash in.
Okay.
And those are the things that I want to fight, because it's right to fight them.
Right. And that's something that I think people notice about you.
Yeah.
Right. That you definitely put your stake in the ground and say, no, we're not moving on this one. Or there's some things here that you could kind of, I've seen you kind of go, well, I think we can probably work around that. And other ones you're like, we ain't touching, like, we're not going there.
Right. Yeah. And and a lot of it's just I'm someone described me as a Boy Scout, and I think that's the right thing. I mean, I'm a Boy Scout. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Fight for right and fight against wrong. So that's kind of who I am.
Well, we live, one of the things that's interesting to me about the concept of Boy Scout, and if it's right, it's right, is that currently in our environment, the concept of what's right and wrong has just been kind of flayed out there to mean, the concept of what's moral or what's immoral, and what's the role of government, what's not the role of government, seems to be definitely polarized. Well, and definitely grayed out in some areas, and been very polarized.
Well, and you have to be careful, because what's right can be what I can justify as being right.
Correct.
Because we're all great at lying to ourselves, so we can always justify virtually anything.
And we all do it.
Yeah. So I try to fall back on, okay, let's look at the law first. Here's the law. Boom.
Okay.
This is what we have to go by.
Well, and I've seen you do that in several cases.
And we take an oath of office, and I really take the oath seriously. I mean, some people think it's funny, and some people think it's ridiculous. But when I raise my hand and swear an oath to uphold the law and uphold the Constitution of both the United States and the state of Idaho, I mean it. I mean, that's what I'm in for.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's interesting. I know that some people would they could have arguments about your priorities and kind of the things that you find really important versus what they find important.
Sure.
So I know we asked a little background on kind of what shaped you, but where do you sit right now as far as your priorities with governing the county?
well, I'm fiscally conservative, and I think for me that's where I've got to be, because to me it's the responsible place to be.
Okay.
I'm charitable, but I'm charitable with my own money. I'm not charitable with your money.
Okay.
I don't feel like I have a right to your money, nor do you have a right to my money. So, from a financial standpoint, that's where I stand. Everything else starts falling in the gray area, and it's case by case. I mean, I really, you don't see most of the things that happen every day. The job is about 5% ideological. So, regardless whether you're conservative or liberal,
libertarian,
libertarian, it's 5% of the job is that. The rest of it is really business.
Okay.
Do we have the right kind of staffing in Road and Bridge? Do we have the right kind of equipment? What's our priority in Road and Bridge? What about the sheriff? So even though the sheriff is an elected official, we have authority over his budget and over everyone's budget. In fact, I don't think most people know what commissioners actually do.
Wow.
I mean, we are the CEOs for the county, so nothing happens in the county without us signing off on it. No money is spent, even though we create a budget. It doesn't give the department heads or the other elected officials any spending authority. It still has to come through us.
Okay.
And at any time we can pull back. And we did the very first year, we did a spending freeze. Even though there was money in the budget for X, we said our burn rate's too high. We need to go ahead and do a spending freeze on anything other than reoccurring expenses.
In that first year, it was you and Jeff, and was it Mike?
Glenn.
Oh, that's right, Glenn. Yep. And so in that process, in making those decisions as a county, there's this open meeting law, right? And so any conflict, any disagreements have to happen in public.
They have to play out in public. And it's what's interesting is that when I first decided to run, I started looking at meeting law, and I thought, boy, this is the most insane thing on the planet, because I want to hear what the other commissioners think.
Yeah.
Because I don't always know everything. So, and they may have another perspective. They may have thought of something I haven't thought of. So all that process has to play out in public.
That's awkward.
Yeah, and it is awkward, and it's at times it can seem just kind of weird. At times it can seem even a little unprofessional. I know we've had some discussions that have gotten pretty heated. In front of the public, and it's the way the system's designed, and I think it's good. I mean, people need to know. What they don't know is that, for instance, on a Tuesday business meeting, they go, "Oh, you guys have made these decisions before you even got here." Well, no, we get the packet on the Thursday before, so we have a chance to go through every one of those things, pull invoices, talk to department head, and say, "Hey, why are you doing this?" So when we come in, we've done our homework, so we know kind of generally each one of us individually know where we're going with it. Now, something may come up in a meeting. In fact, we may have somebody, a constituent in the audience, that might say, "Hey, I'm against this because of X," and that's something we take into consideration.
Yeah. So then, when you do have an executive session, right, and you guys do go private, that's really limited to just a handful of things that you could ever do.
I want to say 6. I think it's 6 items. And it's a lot of it has to do with either legal issues, employees, personnel issues, that type of thing.
So. Okay. Now,
and even in that, we can't make a decision in executive.
Oh, okay.
We can only discuss it. We have to come out of it, and then that's the only time we can make a decision.
Okay. So one of the things that, if you noticed in the Sandpoint, and I think across the entire region, in almost every city, whether it was Pend Oreille or Dover or in Sandpoint, in that, in Kootenai, the people running for either a city council position or mayor said, wow, we need to improve the conversation with the county. We need to have a better relationship and conversation, because there's been, obviously, and we'll probably talk about the festival thing and some other stuff, but how would you say that is? Like, how do you assess how the city and let's just take Sandpoint, how the city of Sandpoint and the county's relationship is right now? How would you say it is? And then, is there any ways to improve it?
It's not good. And I think when I talk to people, I've talked to past commissioners, and they've said, Sandpoint's always been the tail of the dog that's tried to wag the dog, being the county, to a degree. And I don't know if that's an accurate description, but they are the county seat.
Yep.
They are a municipality, so they have the ability to do anything they want within their jurisdiction. But but there always seems to be this little, we want to push a little bit. At least this is my perception.
Okay.
We saw it with Greenprint, which came out and it was talking about, one of the things it talked about was controlling land in the county. Well, that scared a lot of people in the county.
It
saying,
sure did. Yeah.
Wait a minute. And it scared me as well. My words were, listen, do what you want within the city limits. That's all yours. But when you come to the county, you should be talking to us, or if you want to come in the county. And that really didn't happen. They claimed they did through the planner at the time. But there was never a discussion with the commissioners. Well, there was a small discussion with one of them, but it's really something that if you want to look at something like that, you really should have us at the table.
Well, and do you feel like being at the table is a formal process, correct?
I think it needs to be. I think it needs to be formal and public. And I'm not a big fan of closed door meetings.
Right.
I'd rather have everything played out in
Correct.
public
Yeah.
because it's more honest, it's cleaner.
Okay. So let's just take the
Green print.
The green print. So, I think if the city had said, hey, let's come up with a proposal or something, here's plans that we're working on within the city that could have impacts in the county, that would have that. Here's what we're thinking. We want to have sit down and have a conversation with the planners and with the different people on the county level. They would need to submit something to the commissioners in order to get that ball rolling.
Yeah. And I'd like to see it.
I'm just curious about the process.
Come to the commissioners. I mean, there were some things in that report that were startling, and I went through it with a fine tooth comb and a little concerned about, having to, pull out property in the county that's non-productive. People who are living on non-productive land. So if you're not growing anything or raising cattle or what have you, should give that up. And, so the people in the city can enjoy it. We've got a lot of land in the county that can be enjoyed by people in the city. When it boils down to it, we look at it from a tax-based basis. There's really, when you take out the Forest Service, IDL land and the private commercial timber land, and the conservation easements, we're down to about 14% of land that can be developed, that's privately held and can be developed, which trying to run a county government based on that, especially in a rural setting, is tough.
Sure.
I mean, it's really difficult.
Sure.
So when you talk about,
and I'm not familiar enough with the plans in the green,
Sure.
that whole green print, to have a, thought on it left or right. What do you think are ways that they could improve?
It'd be nice if we had, we tried to institute some quarterly meetings where we would bring all the different cities in together with us, and we sit in the same room. We would talk about issues that were important. We'd ask them for their issues that they feel are important to discuss, and try to get everybody back. It was called the all county meeting.
Okay.
And we had a couple of those, but
when was that?
They were last year.
Okay.
And it was to try to get us all at least discussing things that might affect both groups.
Okay.
So out in Hope, if something's going on in Hope that may affect the county, we want to be there. And we helped Hope out with an issue with the water issue last year.
Yeah.
We talked to Clark Fork. Sandpoint kind of pulled out of the process to a degree.
Okay.
Not a lot of participation.
Was it? And I wonder if it was because, hey, we're already doing something similar with the Bonner regional team.
But in this case, you actually had all three commissioners. These were agendized meetings. You'd have all three of us there.
Okay.
Which I think is
that's
better.
the difference. Okay. So instead of it being just a private gathering, and not even a private, it was public, but as far as the forum was, it was, for anybody who wanted to be there could be there. It's very open-ended.
The problem we had is when we had more than one commissioner there, because I went to the first one and as did the other two commissioners, and you're right on the edge of that open meeting law violation. And in fact, I had found out, unbeknownst to me, that the county was paying for some of the lunches and for the speaker or for the moderator without going through the formal approval process, which is a big no-no.
Okay.
And I said, it's got to stop. You can't. The two of you can't talk at the regional team meeting and decide you're going to do something.
Well, and one of the things that was really clear, I'll just say this because I helped kind of write that and put that together. One of the rules that we came up with was that no decisions can be made here.
Right.
So it was one of those, like, this is where we can have, and people were open to be guests to sit in and watch as much as they wanted.
Sure.
And so we tried to navigate that in a way that would honor the open meeting laws, as well as say, hey, we're not going to make any decisions. Every municipality, whether it's the county, any of the cities, any of the things, they all get to make their own decisions about what they want to do, but here's a place we can hash it out. And so that was the goal behind it. And obviously, how the funding happened. And
Yeah.
I know BCHA, we funded it several times,
Mm-hmm.
paid for it. So I think there was a lot of different association of realtors and different people that had pitched into it to try and get something like that to
And
work.
I wouldn't have had an issue with the funding if it would have come before the commissioners officially, but this was literally a violation of the open meeting law
Okay.
in every sense of the word. So that's where it became a problem.
Okay. Because the county paid for it?
County paid for it. Yeah.
Okay. And so that's
and the decision was made by, and in fact, when I asked the other two commissioners, they said the decision was made. We talked about it during the meeting, during that meeting, regional team meeting. I said, I looked at him, our attorney and I looked at him and said, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You can't do this. And so,
sure. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, and I think that being able to come together in a way that would have some of those types of meetings, whether it's the Bonner Regional Team concept, getting the cities and the counties. I know that came up a lot for the city of Sandpoint. People saying, hey, we've got to connect. We got to have a place to hash out some things. And I think that, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, is that you're saying, okay, great. We're great with that. We are open to having those meetings. They just have to be done in a format that allows us to honor the rules that you're under.
Well, and I really think from a government to government standpoint, they're best done in the all county meeting process that we had. I think that, we could still have you come in, we can still have other groups come in because we've got some areas where it's going to cross lines. So that's important.
Yeah.
But I think it was a better setting. It was a agendized setting. And it was open to the public, which I know yours were, but I think it was just a cleaner process because it was really focusing on government to government because we do have to work with each other. It's important. I wish we worked together more, but and hopefully that'll happen.
Well, and I think that one of the nice things is being able to sit down and have people hear you say it, because I think majority of this, I just keep beating this drum as to why we're having this show, right? Is because nobody actually gets to hear the conversation,
right?
We just get the sound bites and letters to the editor.
You get whatever's you get letters to the editor and whatever the B prints.
Nothing against letters to the editor. Yeah. People need to get their opinions on there, and that's an open forum for people to put it out there, which is great. But for people that have some authority and some roles, I'm like, man, we need to hear.
Well, and I try to make myself extremely available.
Well, and that's something we need to get to because you are the social media master of Bonner County.
I did not want to own that moniker.
Yeah, well, you own it because if there's anything happening online in any of the forums, Dan McDonald, here he is, and he's putting in.
Yeah, no, trust me, my wife.
Has it reached addiction levels?
Not addiction. I'll tell you. Well, it all depends on who you talk to. If you talk to me, I say no. If you talk to my wife, she says it's beyond addiction, and she wants to put me in a program. But
that's funny.
No, one of the things I explain to people, some people like it that I'm out there. Some people clearly don't like it that I'm out there. The whole premise behind that was when I was running for office, I said, listen, I want to be as transparent as possible. Because one of the things I never saw was you never heard from a commissioner. You never heard anything. You just didn't, other than sound bites or quotes in the paper.
And even if you sat in a meeting, you can't ask a question.
Right. And you don't know what's going on because you don't know the background. So what happened, the way it started was I started responding to people who had questions. And what I found was rarely do we get people to come into our office. We do, but not compared to the volume on Facebook. It's nowhere near that. Nor do we get phone calls. I think people feel a little intimidated to come in to the office.
Yeah.
So Facebook creates this doorway for people to tag me in on the discussion because I'll see, I won't even be involved in a discussion. There'll be something going on and, well, I heard this and I heard that. You know how rumors get started.
Yep.
And they'll tag me in. Well, let's invite Dan McDonald. So I'll get invited in and no, here's what's actually going on. Now, the importance of that is so many times things go on, rumors start, and they take on a life of their own, and they suddenly become this de facto truth, even though there's no truth behind it, and it becomes a much bigger problem. If I can get those things when they're small and put out a small fire, it's better than trying to put out the forest fire.
Totally. Do you think that being so public kind of puts a target on your back a little bit?
Without a doubt. Oh yeah. I get. I don't know if you've seen everything I've been involved in, but there's I have the far left that constantly comes at me. It's just relentless, and they're brutal and they're vicious. They came after my wife, which I finally had to say, listen, that needs to stop. My wife's not me. If you ever met my wife, she's the sweetest person on the planet. Everyone loves her. And I don't have a problem taking the hits. I really don't. I mean,
Okay.
it's just because I always try to stand on facts. I always try to bring good information. I don't get to the point where it's a woman that I used to go to church with gave me this little piece long ago. She says, "Your opinion of me is none of my business." People are going to have opinions.
Yep.
There's certain people that I will never, ever, ever make happy. But but what I want to be is a source.
Doesn't matter who you are. Yeah.
I want to be a source for information, and I'm talking not just about the left, but the right as well.
Yeah, totally.
I've got some of the right that were all worked up about this 120-day RV thing that they thought we created, which we didn't, and so I'm having to deal with that fallout. But I've got people on the left mad at me, I have people on the right mad at me. So hopefully I'm doing a good job.
Well, I think that's a risk with politics today. Obviously, is that if you're going to take a stand in any direction, as far as being vocal about it, I think it's much easier in politics to not say anything.
It's easier to hide, but I'll tell you the other.
And I'm not calling that bad.
Not necessarily.
Like
there are times I wish I wasn't on some of these threads, but now that I'm in it, now I can't quit it. So, but one of the issues is that most people don't see the nuts and bolts to everything.
Okay.
They don't understand how government works. They don't understand what our duties are, what we can and what we can't do. I mean, you can take any controversial planning hearing, for instance.
Sure.
In fact, I'll give you a good example. The asphalt batch plant.
Right.
Group of 60, 70 people showed up opposing it. Now, that's all well and good. But what we have to do is we have to follow the law. And the law clearly says, the question is an asphalt batch plant appropriate in a quarry? That's all we're looking at. The law says it is. Regardless of what the 70 people say, we can't go by public opinion. There was a case down in Boise County where the county commissioners listened to the loud voices, made a bad decision, got sued, and it was on a manufacturing plant that wanted to move into their county. Their budget at the time was $7 million. They got sued for $9 million.
Wow.
And lost, and the plant still moved there. And it's because they didn't follow the law. They got caught up in the emotion of the moment and maybe a concern over getting reelected or what have you.
Sure.
And listening to the loud voices. What we don't want hearings to turn into is the two factions coming together and screaming at us or screaming at each other. We want them to be fact-based.
Okay.
Here are the facts. Please try to put the emotion aside, because the emotion is the silent killer. Maybe not so silent killer. It's usually pretty loud. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because majority of studies that have been done recently about media show that when they were able to quantify the emotional responses to headlines, that the entire media industry changed.
Yeah.
Because they realized at that point they could make money based on people's emotional responses. And so, which is an interesting study to look at, and I'm introducing myself into the media sphere. So I'm like studying this stuff and realizing like, okay, a lot of what we experience and feel is not necessarily based on facts.
Right. In fact, what's interesting is there's all these articles that always come up, and the headline will say one thing or imply one thing.
Yep.
And then when you read the article, you find out, well, that headline, who wrote the headline?
Yeah.
Was there somebody in a cave that didn't read the article to read the content?
Yeah.
And people
I read 2 of those this morning.
Yeah. And
where I'm like, wait, what?
People react to the headline and don't read the article. And it's unfortunate. And that's why I always tell people, listen, it's a biblical principle. If you have a problem with me, come see me. Or if you have a problem with something I've done, come see me or call me or tag me on Facebook or message me. Sure. Because 9 times out of 10, I can walk you through our process and what we had to look at, and you'll go, oh, now I get it. And I've converted a lot of people.
Well, and it doesn't mean that you agree with the outcome.
Right.
Right. And that's the, like you don't have to agree with even the thought process, but or even the ideology that put that in place, or, there's so many different aspects that we can disagree on, and yet we still agree on what is actually happening.
Well, and even so much that I may not agree with an outcome, but the law says this is the outcome.
Yeah.
And that's where one of the things I really try to do, and it's an exercise in humility, is not to put myself in the position.
Okay.
This is not about me. That's what I used to tell we were youth group leaders for a while, so we used to always tell our kids, listen, it's not about you.
Yep.
We go on a mission trip. It's not about you.
Yep.
Today you don't get to go to the beach. That's sad.
Yeah.
Today we're building a handicap ramp for this church, and try to plug that in, because I never want to get to the point where I'm driving a narrative because it's what I want.
Okay.
I try to look at it. Okay, what's best for the community, and certainly there's going to be a little bit of your own experience in it. But what's best for the community? What's best based on the law? And that's where where I go. Now there are certain touchy feely things that we do deal with, and we do look for opinion, and we want input, and we want people to have good constructive input, not well, I just don't like it because I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess one of the questions that comes up is, you're saying dealing with the facts, dealing with the law. One of the things that came up was with the lawsuit towards the festival that was brought actually to the city,
right.
and so tell me a little bit about that process for you guys, because I know that was it Scott Hernan, right? He made a video showing, that his rights were being infringed on bringing a firearm in. And from there, you get notified and the commissioners are notified that there's a violation.
Yeah,
I don't know how all that played out. I'm just picking stuff off of what
I'll give you the timeline.
I just read it and go, that's interesting. So
tell me more. And this is a great opportunity because so many people don't know. They only know what they've read.
Sure.
The be or the reader, and it's not real accurate. So it started... There's a couple of guys I know that work security for the festival, and I let them come out to our place. We place on the lake, and they let their dogs swim on hot days. And they happened to be out there one day, and this was before the festival even started. And they said, "Hey, people can't carry this year at the festival." I said, "What?" Because they're going to ban all firearms. I said, "Man, I don't know if that's legal," and I didn't at the time. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, let me check it out." And both these guys carry almost all the time, and as do I. And I said, well, let me check it out. So I got a hold of our attorney and said, will you look into this? Because it doesn't sound right. And I explained to him what was going on. And he said, no, I can already tell you it's not right. It's against the law. There's, I think it's 18.3022J that says that cities, counties, we can't regulate possession of firearm on public ground. So I said, look into it. I don't want to start anything unless I know for sure that this is legit. And so he looked into it. We brought in our outside attorney to help us because they're really good. They're a much bigger firm and have a lot more reach than what our in-house folks have. And they did a bunch of research on it and came back to us and said, yeah, this is not legal. And so do we want to sue? And we started out by saying, no, we don't want to sue. Let's talk to the city. Let's send them a letter because it's a legal issue. You have to follow that process. So let's send them a letter with the statute, our case law that we see in our opinion, and invite them to have a conversation with us. So we sent the letter out. We gave them a date. Please contact us before this date. We did not get contact in the form that we wanted. And when I say that, it's the only contact we got was a question: how is Dabbler Law Group able to represent the county, or basically something to that essence. It was a stall tactic. So then we had another executive session to discuss the issue, and out of that we said, well, let's not do anything yet. Let's see if the city will come around because we really want them to come talk to us. We think we can work this out. We think we can explain it to them. And we'd seen the stuff with Herndon. We'd heard the words that their attorney at the time said. We'd heard about the city council meeting where another citizen came in and quoted the law and said, what you're doing is wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
So we were hoping they were going to come to the table.
Prior to the festival.
That was all prior. Those things happened while the festival was going on.
Oh, okay. While it was going on.
And let me say, season ticket holder for 20 years, love the festival, go every year. Yeah. And we really hoped the city would come to the table, and they didn't. And we just kept hearing nothing. So finally we said, okay, let's go ahead and file and serve them, hoping that might bring them to the table. The premise for their defense is that we have a lease, and the lease therefore protects us, and then that leasee can do whatever they want on public ground. The problem is that ground never changes from public to private. If it were private, the festival could do whatever they wanted. So because it doesn't change, you can't give away or enable I can't remember what the legal term is. You can't give a right that you don't own. So the city doesn't have the right to ban handguns or firearms on the property. Therefore, the leasee does not have that right either.
Okay.
And the lease doesn't protect them because it doesn't change the ownership.
Okay.
If a lease protected them, anybody could lease. White supremacists could lease that ground and say, okay, we're not going to allow anybody in. Anybody who's of a different race. When you start looking at these other contexts, you see how easily, how bad their attorneys, I hate to say how bad, how inappropriate their attorneys' comments were. Because it really doesn't allow the festival to do that because it's still public ground. If it changed hands, if they sold it to the festival, completely different issue. But then now you're looking at procurement issues on public land, which is another whole ball of wax.
Correct. So I know that most, from what I've understood, what I've heard, a lot of the lease, issues for the festival, in order for the festival to be there, is that they've got to be in agreement with the artists and with, management companies who won't allow firearms for those people to be there. So essentially, with the way that the state of Idaho, right, if I'm understanding your argument, just according to the state law, then none of those people can perform on public grounds if they don't agree to allowing for carry.
Which is odd because there are festivals all over the state.
That
are on public ground.
Yes.
That people are allowed to carry and those same performers show up to. Now I went so far as to contact booking agents.
Okay.
And asked them, hey, listen, what's the issue with it? And they said, it's like the 10,000 green M&Ms thing. These contracts come with all these different riders and you negotiate the riders. When you look around the state, in fact, this same issue came up in Kootenai County.
Okay.
They were going to ban firearms from their fairgrounds, and the law was explained to the county, and they went to the fair board, and they said, "Okay, we're backing off. We'll allow firearms." They have performers show up there all the time. You can look at any other festival in the state of Idaho that's on public land, and there are a lot of them. They all allow firearms, and they sign off on the rider. So I don't know that we're living in a vacuum.
Okay.
So.
Right. So maybe there's a solution there that has not been presented. I'm always surprised at how many times solutions are reduced to this or that.
Well, it's
right. It's either
the false,
sign up. There's not an actual equivalent there.
That, and I think what tends to happen, and this happens not just with this issue, but with a lot of issues, people build a mound.
Okay.
And once they build a mound, they've got to defend the mound. So they build the mound, they put the walls up, they have the guards with the swords, or they're going to stop anything from touching their mound, when in reality all they have to do is step off the mound and look at logic. Because the first thing I thought was, how are these other concerts going on in the state of Idaho on public ground?
Right.
Sandpoint's not in a bubble. It's not different than anywhere else. And I don't know if it was ideology bleeding in or what.
Who knows?
Because
I don't know.
when it comes to gun rights and the Second Amendment and all that, there are definitely two camps. There's very few people in the middle.
Very.
I mean, there is not a lot of gray area there. You either are for that type of freedom or you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I wonder, sounds like there's some good oppormunities there.
Yeah.
Let me just say that.
It'll be a good learning event for some folks.
Yeah.
But we've looked at this. I think we've talked to 8 different attorneys about this case, because I'm not one that wants to spend taxpayer dollars on something like this, unless I know that the outcome is favorable. And we couldn't find a single one that said, "Oh no, here's what you're missing."
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about this issue coming up, and what was the priority for you, just ideologically, to push forward, to go ahead and spend the money to deal with this issue?
So this goes back to my oath of office.
Okay.
So now we have an issue. We have an issue that's a legal issue with respect to the law. And I don't know if you've read the law yet, but it's one of the few laws. If you read Idaho law, it usually takes 3 attorneys to decipher it.
Sure.
This one is so clearly written. Right in the preamble, the legislature states that the legislature intends to occupy the field when it comes to the regulation of firearms. That is strong language.
Wow.
I mean, that's some of the strongest language you'll typically hear in any law. And so what they're saying is that we're the end all be all, and this is what we want. If people don't like the law, they can try to change it. But at this point, this is the law. Now, for me to ignore that, especially in light of the Herndon video and the other things that took place, then am I doing my job? Because trust me, I don't want to be the guy that, kills the festival, which I don't think this kills the festival, but that's the way I'm being painted.
There's a lot of challenges.
Yeah, this is the guy that hates the festival. I love the festival.
Okay.
I mean, I was friends with Dino for years, and but at the end of the day, I took an oath of office.
Yeah.
And either I have that kind of integrity or I don't. And if I don't have that type of integrity, I need to get out of office.
Okay. So one of the things that you look at with the county currently as you move forward, how many more years do you have in your term?
3.
3
long years.
Because you were given was it a 6 or did you start with a 2-year term?
2-year, yeah.
And now you got
And
reelected.
now I'm on a 4, yeah, I'm on a 4
and now
year.
you're on a 4
Yeah,
year.
it goes
So
2,
6
4,
to
2,
yep,
4,
2,
yeah.
4, 2, 4. So over the next 3 years, what are you seeing for areas of improvement for the county and areas that you really feel like you want to focus on?
Managing process is important.
Okay.
Process drives a budget. One of the things, the first 3 months in office, one of the most commonly heard things coming out of my office is, why do we do it this way?
Mm-hmm.
And the response was always the same. This is the way we've always done it.
Yep.
So I realized at that point we need to change the culture.
Okay.
You're not going to fix the budget and the spending issue if you can't change the culture. So in March, our department had meeting in March, and I'm always joking around the department, but I said, listen, I'm banning a phrase, and that phrase is, this is the way we've always done it. It stifles creativity. It stifles the ability to find solutions or even to look for solutions. You don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, hey, this is the way we've done it, so we're going to keep doing it this way. Continue to do it the same way. You're going to continue to get the same results. In order for us to be as fiscally responsible as possible, and we need government. I'm not one of these people that thinks that's an anarchist that thinks we should do away with all government.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we're minding our P's and Q's when it comes to that. And only doing, that was the other edict we put out, was these departments only do what you're supposed to be doing by state statute. Don't go beyond. You can't go beyond. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. And the amount of fat we found in the budget was scary.
Really?
First year we cut almost $9 million.
Wow.
Total in 2 years we cut over 20. Now we've also changed processes. So when we went self-insured with liability, the only way it would work was for me to make the department heads accountable. So there were two big issues. Our two big hot button issues were vehicle losses, crashes of county vehicles, and lawsuits by employees. So we said, here's the deal. Your budget's your budget, but if you wreck a vehicle and your people haven't gone through the driving course, we have our own risk manager, then it's going to come out of your budget. The loss will. If you fire somebody without running it through HR, that money will come out of your budget. We went from losing about $500,000 to $600,000 a winter, which is our biggest time of loss, to losing $15,000.
That's amazing.
In 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like that. And what it did, it gave those department heads a little bit of ownership now.
Okay.
That they may not have had before. I think some did, some didn't. So we really changed the culture. Being able to change the culture is important, but you have to maintain it, because I know the minute I leave, if someone comes in and they're a little more cavalier, the culture will want to flip back.
Of course.
So it's a matter of making this the new norm.
In any organization, the culture always wins.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the culture is, that's what wins. That's the thing that everything reverts to.
But there's also things in planning. I mean, we're still looking for opportunities in planning. I know you're working with housing. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. Milton, our planning director, same way. Yeah. But the question is, what's the proper role of government in this? And we believe our role is to create those planning opportunities so that we can see some growth. I think our biggest issue in Bonner County is housing.
Okay.
We have too much of a demand and not enough supply.
Okay. And so what are some things that you see with housing that you think the county can help with right now?
Well, right now I'm working with Milton and I are working with two different developers that are looking to come in and do something.
Okay.
We've talked about starter homes, because that's, I think, where our hot button is really. We don't need any more mansions. We have enough mansions for now. I mean, if people want to build a mansion, that's fine.
Yeah.
But we need homes that have a lower price point. What that is today, I'm probably 200,000 or so,
or less,
or less if possible. Something that people can get into, and then turn around and eventually sell and work their way up the ladder.
Yep.
The problem is always when you talk about affordable housing, short of Section 8 type housing or offset housing, the market's always going to drive it. So
correct.
One of the two guys I'm working with, I said, here's what we need to do. I said, you need to find someone who's going to finance this. We need to keep investment banks from coming in and buying any of these.
Correct. Yep.
These should be first-time buyers only. And
primary residents.
Primary resident.
Yep.
No, we don't need any more vacation rentals. Really tune this thing up so that we have all the right. We have the developer, we have the builder, we have the financer. So that people can get into these things. Now, once they're in them and they turn around and flip them.
So how do you how would you restrict the sale?
That would be with the finance. That'd be the owner and the financing. So the developer and the financing would say, here are our rules. These are first-time buyer homes. Okay. Whatever they may be. It may be a mixture of some tiny homes that are even more affordable. Sure. And some little single-family homes.
Some of the middle.
Yeah,
middle
but where we run into the wall is that then we've got the other folks that are concerned about Bonner County looking like Kootenai County, wall-to-wall homes. And I want to tell everybody, if you're watching this, we're not idiots. We get it. I don't want Bonner County to look like Kootenai County.
Okay.
I want Bonner County to still maintain its rural character.
Yeah.
It's in our edict of what we're supposed to do as commissioners is to maintain the rural character. But there's ways to do that. I mean, there are a lot of areas. I mean, for instance, we were talking about Sully Valley and different areas, and right now Blanchard's starting to blow up a little bit.
Yeah.
But Blanchard's still a long ways from
correct
the main hub here in town. So
that's
that
not
creates
like
some issues.
Yeah.
It's more, Blanchard's more of an extension of Kootenai County.
Correct.
So Sully Valley, of course, is one of the prime spots. Sagal's a prime spot. And we've got parties within those two areas that are absolute no new development. I don't want my neighbor putting a lean-to up on their house, what have you.
Sure.
Flies in the face of private property rights,
yep.
in my opinion. And it flies in the face of resolving issues that affect all of us.
Huh.
For instance, you've got companies like Quest and Lighthouse. They have a bunch of employees that live down in Kootenai County. I had a well-known businessman here says, that's fine, let them live down there.
Yeah.
I said, well, let me
I know, I've had those conversations.
I said, let me talk about economics here.
Yeah.
So you have people working here, making money here. They're spending it down there.
Yep, you bet.
This person owns a business. It's a consumer-based business. I said, so literally your customers are all going south, your potential future customers. I said, we're draining the county of its economic ability. So what we have to look at now is, so what are our challenges? Our challenges are always going to be sewer and water. Those are the naturally limiting challenges for any housing development. So how do you tackle that? Well, Kootenai Ponderay still has, I think, 1,500 hookups left. So that'd be helpful. Short of that, there's one developer that said, what about putting in a sewer system? And there's some good examples in the county. Blanchard Golf Course. I met with the owner of Blanchard Golf Course and Chan, and he's got a fantastic sewer system and a well that produces more water than I've ever heard of. I think he said it was 900 gallons every 3 seconds. So you could literally take all of Blanchard and put it on a sewer system with water.
That's crazy.
And really change the complexion there and improve the environment. I mean, I don't know if people think that conservatives don't care about the environment. We always care about the environment. We just have a different way of going about it. But I'm concerned about, what is our saturation rate with septic systems? Yeah. When do we reach that point that our aquifer is starting to get, a little tainted? Yeah. So, I mean, these are pretty big questions, big issues, lots of work, lots of thought. I mean, Milton and I are constantly meeting. I'm the commissioner over planning, so I meet quite a bit. And we're constantly looking for, okay, how do we resolve this? Can we find somebody to put a sewer system up in Sully Valley? And then, what kind of resistance we're going to run into? And I mean,
it's interesting that not in my backyard, or what we call NIMBY, right? NIMBY. And I think that's what you're talking about. Almost every time I have that conversation with somebody who is of that, kind of has that perspective that says, I don't want quote unquote affordable housing near me. And they reference where they came from in California, or where they've been, or Section 8 housing, or these different types of things. As a housing developer myself, having built and renovated 17 houses that are all here local. They're all in Bonner County, in Boundary County. They're all homes that people enjoy, they live in. We were able to get them in there at way below market value.
That's awesome.
Right. And, you can't tell them apart. You can't tell which one's which. Right. There's no way to tell, because it's just normal North Idaho housing, right? And so I think that there's a lot of education that has to happen in order for people to go, oh, it's not going to look like that. And that's the one thing that's changed.
And that's what we can control.
Yeah.
At the county, we can control how this gets done. I mean, there's a lot of great examples of very tasteful housing projects that don't look like wall to wall, zero clearance, condos or whatever. I mean, they're actually nice little parks with homes in them. Yeah.
Have you seen any of the presentations I've done on the land trust concept?
I've read. I think I read something that you put out about a land trust, and that's where the land is owned
in trust.
Yeah, in trust, right? and then
you buy the home and the improvements on it.
Now, is there a cap to what a person can make?
Yes, it's a resale restriction.
Okay,
because it's on the land trust,
and that's where I get it. That's where I have a little bit of pause only.
Sure.
Only because the American dream is you own a house, then you sell that house and buy a better house.
So you still get to earn money.
Sure.
The appreciation isn't tied to market; it's tied to an index.
Are you having success with that?
Well, there's tons of them that are very successful.
Okay.
We're still trying to break in as far as our first one here. The biggest issue is getting. We've got people who have land that they've been willing to donate.
Oh, really?
The issue is the infrastructure,
right?
And dealing with infrastructure costs, because if you take the land and you then develop the infrastructure, and let's say the house is totally built out, land improvements, everything's 250,000.
Okay.
With the land trust would maybe hold 70 after all fees, improvements, cost of land, everything else, and the house is now by itself is 180,000. So people come in and they buy it at 180, and then they resell it based on indexed appreciation plus whatever they paid down.
Sure.
So they're going to walk away with cash and they end up selling it, but that keeps it affordable forever.
Well, and I think that's that would be the key to be able to walk away with cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know
absolutely. I don't know if
I
you can do housing.
I like a real free market approach to it, but it does mean that the market's going to drive it.
Yeah.
But then it would make me wonder, would people want to take advantage of something where they're restricted in the amount of money they can make, especially in the market the way it is today?
Well, one of the biggest issues is, can you afford to own your own home in the current market the way it is?
Just get into it.
Well, we got 800, 900 square foot houses for 2-bedroom, 1-bath for $235 in the city of Sandpoint. And when we look at that, we go, okay, family of 4 in Bonner County, a family of 4, what's affordable for them is a house under 200,000.
Right. But the reason why we're in this problem, there's a couple of different factors.
Sure.
And you probably already know it. One of them is inventory. Our demand is the demand is way too high. We have I mean,
so many people moving here.
If we built a couple of little projects, we would start to see the average home price start to drop, especially in that sector.
I think so.
So that segment, because housing is supply and demand. No matter where you go, it's always supply and demand. So we beef up the supply.
Okay.
The demand costs will lower, and that will be helpful. I just think that people forget that. And then the people that, I guess there's a little bit of an inherent risk to landowners that are now looking at their property value and going, wow, this is awesome. I'm going to sell and get out of here, because it'll also reduce theirs.
Yeah.
But we can't keep playing this zero-sum game, because our kids who are growing up here, my kids don't live here. They're growing up here. They're having to live somewhere else. So that's a cultural drain.
Yeah, it is.
Our culture's being drained. Our brain trust is being drained. We can't get we can't get anybody in here to really create a decent business that pays decent wages, because they can't house their employees.
Well, and the ones that are here, the great businesses that we have here are having a hard time maintaining.
Right. Yeah. There's buses that run back and forth. There's an issue with the workforce to a larger degree, but we have people moving here to work and they can't find a place to live. They're living behind Walmart in a trailer. Yeah. And it's like, and some of that is also, the other factor here is this vacation rental thing. People have converted long-term rental properties to short-term vacation rentals.
They're much more lucrative.
Yeah, they're much more lucrative. People are making $5,000 a month. And if you're listening to this, do not turn your house into a vacation rental. But I mean, it's happening, and I don't blame them. But that takes a big segment of the market out.
It does.
And no one wants to see Section 8 housing. I mean, there's a fear about that.
And Section 8's it's a voucher program now. Right. So anybody who's a landlord can receive Section 8 vouchers.
Right. True.
You just have to agree that you're going to take them for 20 years. And that's, so some of the people who've been Section 8 landlords, what we would call like low income housing, their 20 years is up. And they're saying, we're not going to continue to take Section 8 vouchers. Yeah. And now that entire market is now being completely removed.
Oh, I'm sure.
The only people that are still developing anywhere that accepts voucher programs are these market rate housing projects like Milltown and places that Whitewater Creek that they're developing because they'll take all the vouchers.
And what I don't want people to settle. I don't want someone to settle for a Section 8 apartment. I started out in a small apartment. It drove me crazy. Went to a duplex.
Let's move up.
And just kept moving forward and started, buying and selling. And I think there's something about, and maybe it's just me, but there's something about just accepting. Certainly you want to accept certain things in your life, but don't be satisfied.
Yeah.
I mean, get to a place where you can say, okay, this is where I belong. And not everybody belongs in a mansion. You don't all need to live in mansions. Besides, it's hard to keep them clean.
Well, if you have one, you can hire a cleaner.
But yeah, there you go. If you can afford a mansion, you can hire a cleaner.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't say that. Honey, don't watch this because I don't want to hire a cleaner. We don't live in a mansion, but she keeps saying, "Why our house is so big now with all the kids gone." Anyway,
that's true.
I just think it's good for people to continue to strive to improve themselves.
Yeah,
because that's my life story. I started out no college, just kind of went out and did it.
What do you think is the biggest thing that people misunderstand about you?
Oh gosh, where do I start? Some people like to call me a bully, which is not really deserved. Am I forceful? Yeah. I mean, if I'm really behind something, oh yeah, I'm going to wave the flag. I'll run up the hill. I'll take the hits. There's a whole nother side of me that people don't get to see, I guess, sometimes. And I wish I could show it to them. But my wife, last year during the election, my wife put something on Facebook that talked about who I was. And, you don't know the real Dan and blah, blah, it's getting all welling up here. But there's a whole other side of me. You've seen a little bit of the other side of me with life choices. The biggest thing with me is that I just try to do the right thing.
Okay.
I mean, when I leave office, whenever that is, I want to leave office and be able to say, you know what? I did the absolute very best I could with the information I had, and I always try to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, the other side people don't see is the amount of people that come to me for help, and I can help them. Mm-hmm. Typically, most I can help. Some there's things that are beyond my grasp as a commissioner, and I'm willing to do so. I give out my cell phone number to anybody, and I tell them call me nights, weekends, and people call me at nights and on weekends. I have a meeting this morning. This is our day off. It's Veterans Day today. Yep. Call out to all our veterans. Thanks for your sacrifice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm willing to meet. I'm willing to work with people. I always have been. It's in my nature. It's in my customer service nature.
Okay.
Because the background of everything I've done all my life is always to serve someone else.
Yeah.
Whether it's serving Christ, whether it's serving customers, it's about service, and I'm happy to be of service. Now, again, there's going to be that segment that no matter what I do, if I came over and washed their car every week, they're not going to like it, and that's okay. Yeah. They can stay over here. But everyone else, if I can help, I'm happy to help.
Okay. And then, what do you think is the most deserved critique that you get?
Oh gosh, that I can argue until everyone passes out because I can. My parents thought I should have been an attorney.
Okay.
And I didn't want to lower my standards, so I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I have friends that are attorneys. They're buddies of mine.
Oh man,
it's always a common joke. No, I just I'm like a dog on a bone when it comes to certain things. Now there are other things,
and we see that.
What people don't see are the conversations I bypass, the criticisms I don't stand up to. Now, one of the things I learned early on in politics is if someone makes a statement about you and you don't rebut it, it can become the truth, whether it's truthful or not. So that's one of the reasons why you see me as active as I am. But I will argue to the dying day. Yep. And it drives my poor wife crazy.
Well, I have to remind people, I've gotten a little, I would say, healthy feedback since I started doing the show, because I don't, a lot of people feel like I need to correct people's record or say certain things, and it's not my role on this show to do that.
Sure.
And I appreciate you taking the chance to come on and spend some time with us and to have a conversation about your history and perspective. I was really interested in kind of how you formatted your political kind of acumen a little bit. So it's good to hear your backstory a little bit. So I appreciate that.
Well, let me give out my cell phone number. So I carry a cell phone around with me all the time. I have one for the county. This is my personal cell phone number, 208-661-0428.
So if
you have an issue or a question, or you think I'm a moron, call me.
Okay.
Because I'm always happy to debate the I'm a moron thing. There may be some truth to it, but not in every area. But feel free to call me. I'm here to help.
Okay.
So
great. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I think we're good. I checked my list. Did I get everything? And I think we did. At this point, there's a couple things that I think you covered in kind of how you view governance, which is good. So
the smallest as possible. If we can make it even smaller, we'll figure out a way to do it without cutting services.
All right. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.